Welcome to Value Plays Only, where Mental Misstep can only be used on Soul Ring. Today we have Josh, playing Crick, son of Yawgmoth. This monoblack powerhouse looks to land Crick early and use it to cheat mana costs, assembling a Grey Merchant of Asphodel loop as early as turn 1 or 2. His hand contains an Imperial Seal, Grim Tutor, Blood Pet, Arcane Signet, Swamp, Command Beacon, and City of Traders. John is playing Kambal, Profiteering Mayor. This is a parasitic token deck looking to abuse its opponent's value engines. It can win with an Abdel Adrian or Aristocrat-style loop. His hand contains a Bloodchief Ascension, Douthie Voidwalker, Grand Abolisher, Ranger Captain of Eos, Rev, Tithe Extractor, Polluted Delta, and Verdant Catacombs. Dan is playing Najeela, the Blade Blossom. This 5-color good stuff pile is packed full of wins. In addition to Najeela-specific combos like Derevi and Grim Hireling, it can win with Thassa's Oracle or Underworld Breach. His hand contains an Ignoble Hierarch, Lotus Petal, Mental Misstep, Verdant Catacombs, Windswept Teeth, and Gemstone Caverns. His London Mulligan is a Tinderwall. Tyler's playing Rograkh, son of Rograkh, and Silas Wren, Seeker Adept. This is the fastest deck in the format. It uses Rograkh to its highest potential, blazing out Grixis flavored wins as early as turn 1 or 2. His hand contains a Mox Opal, Mox Amber, Guild Artisan, Underworld Breach, Thassa's Oracle, Necropotence, and Otawara, Soaring City. And with that, let's see some value plays. Dan has a pregame action, putting Gemstone Caverns into play, exiling Ignoble Hierarch. Josh then starts things off with a City Traders, his land for turn. He casts an Arcane Signet. He casts a Blood Pet. Having the exact start the rest of the pod feared, Josh passes the turn. John plays a Verdant Catacombs, his land for turn. He pays life and cracks it, fetching up a Scrubland. He casts a Bloodchief Ascension. John then passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He casts a Lotus Petal. He plays a Windswept Teeth, his land for turn. He pays life and cracks it, fetching up a Savannah. He then casts his commander, Najeela, the Blade Blossom. Dan passes the turn. Tyler plays an Otawara, Soaring City, his land for turn. He casts his commander, Rograkh, son of Rograkh. He casts a Mox Amber. He casts a Guild Artisan. Tyler passes the turn. Josh untaps and draws. He sacrifices Blood Pet for a black mana and taps out to cast his commander, Crick, son of Yawgmoth. He plays a Swamp as land for turn. City Traders triggers to sacrifice himself. Josh pays 2 life to cast Imperial Seal. Crick triggers to get a counter. In response, Dan pays 2 life to cast Mental Misstep, targeting Impseal. Josh says this isn't even a big deal, but no one believes him. Impseal is countered, and Josh passes the turn. In his end step, Bloodchief triggers to get its first counter. John untaps and draws. He plays a Polluted Delta as land for turn. He pays life and cracks it, fetching up a Godless Shrine, into play on tap, paying 2 life. He casts May, Scornful Striker, hoping to get his Bloodchief online. John passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He plays a Volcanic Island as land for turn. He goes to combat, swinging Najeela at Tyler. Najeela triggers to make a 1/1 warrior tapped and attacking Tyler. Tyler takes the damage, and Dan passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. He plays a Command Tower as land for turn. He goes to combat and swings Rograkh at Dan. It triggers due to Guild Artisan to make 2 treasures. In his second main phase, Tyler casts Mox Opal. May triggers to ping him for 2. He casts a Wishclaw Talisman. May triggers to ping him for 2. He pays 1 and activates Wishclaw, searching up a card to hand and giving Wishclaw to Josh. He then casts Thassa's Oracle. The table snaps to attention as Thassa's Oracle resolves and triggers. Tyler holds priority and casts Demonic Consultation. May triggers to ping him for 2. Dan steps in here and casts Intuition, targeting John. May triggers to ping him for 2. Intuition resolves, and Dan reveals Fierce Guardianship, Savine's Reclamation, and Derevi, Imperial Tactician. John reluctantly gives Dan Fierce Guardianship to hand. Dan then casts Fierce Guardianship, targeting Consultation. May triggers to ping him for 2. Fierce counter Consult and Thassa's Oracle's trigger, then resolves, and Tyler scries 2, bottoming both cards. Fully blown out, Tyler passes the turn. In his end step, Bloodchief gets a second counter. Josh untaps and draws. He activates Wishclaw Talisman, searching up a card to hand and giving Wishclaw to John. He then pays 2 life to help cast Blood Celebrant. Crick triggers to get a counter. It resolves and he pays 9 life into it to make 3 black mana. He pays 4 more to help cast Grey Merchant of Asphodel. Crick triggers to get a counter. It enters and triggers. Each opponent loses 6 life and Josh gains 18. He pays 9 more life into Blood Celebrant for 3 more black, and pays 4 more to help cast Sidisi, Undead Vizier. Crick triggers to get a counter. It enters and triggers to exploit Grey Merchant, sacrificing it to search up a card to hand. He pays 9 life into Blood Celebrant for 3 more mana and 4 more life to help cast Chainer, Dementia Master. Crick triggers to get a counter. Josh plays Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, his land for turn. He pays 3 life into Blood Celebrant to help activate Nykthos, adding 8 black mana to his pool. He spends 3 life and 3 of his floating mana to activate Chainer, returning Grey Merchant from his graveyard to the battlefield. It enters and triggers to drain everyone for 10. He then pays 4 life to help cast Grim Tutor. Crick triggers to get a counter. May triggers to ping him for 2. He searches up a card to hand and loses 3 life. He then casts Razaketh, the Foul-Blooded, paying 9 life between Blood Celebrant and Crick. He activates Razaketh, sacrificing Grey Merchant to search for nothing. He activates Chainer to return Grey Merchant to the battlefield, draining the table. He does this a couple more times until the table is dead. And with that, Josh wins the game. Today, we have a 2-for-1 deal. In this game, John is playing Narset, Enlightened Master. This deck looks to turbo out Narset, leveraging her ability to cheat the cost of massive spells, winning with Infinite Combats or Underworld Breach. His hand contains a Diamond Lion, Into the Floodmaw, Mana Confluence, Talon Gates of Madara, Hall the Bandit Lord, and Tundra. His London Mulligan is an Underworld Breach. Tyler is again playing Rograkh, son of Rograkh, and Silas Rand, Secret Adept. His hand contains a Mox Diamond, Mox Amber, Grim Monolith, An Offer You Can't Refuse, Underground Sea, and Phyrexian Tower. His London Mulligan is a Rain of Filth. Dan is now playing Kambal, Profiteering Mayor. His hand contains a Priest of Felrights, Voice of Victory, Delny Streetwise Lookout, Reanimate, Vampiric Tutor, Exotic Orchard, and Mana Confluence. Ryan is playing Yomiji, who bars the way. This mono-white combo deck is Teshar and Enduring Renewal in a Trenchcoat. It sets up Legends and Sacrifice outlets, filtered into a variety of infinite mana wins. His hand contains Trouble in Pairs, Ashnod's Altar, Mox Opal, Mind Stone, and 2 Plains. His London Mulligan is a Plains. And with that, let's see some value plays. John starts things off with an Ancient Tomb. He casts a Diamond Lion. John then passes the turn. Tyler casts his commander, Rograkh, son of Rograkh. He then casts Mox Amber. He casts Mox Diamond, discarding Underground Sea as it enters. He plays a Scalding Tarn as land for turn. He then casts Grim Monolith. He passes the turn. Dan plays a Mana Confluence as land for turn. He passes the turn. Ryan plays a Plains as land for turn. He casts a Mox Opal and passes the turn. John untaps and draws. He plays an Arid Mesa as land for turn. He passes the turn. In his end step, Tyler pays life and cracks Scalding Tarn, fetching him an Undercity Sewers. Into play tapped, triggering to surveil Valley Floodcaller into his grave. The turn then moves to Tyler. Tyler untaps and draws. He plays Phyrexian Tower as land for turn. He casts his other commander, Silas Rand, Secret Adept. The table get a lot less worried about his start as Tyler passes the turn. In his end step, Dan casts Vampiric Tutor. He searches up a card to the top of his library and loses 2 life. Dan untaps and draws. He plays Exotic Orchard as land for turn. He casts Blind Obedience. Ryan cries out at all of his combos as Dan passes the turn. Ryan untaps and draws. He plays a Plains as land for turn. He casts a Felwar Stone. It enters tapped, and he passes the turn. In his end step, John pays life and cracks Arid Mesa, fetching up a Volcanic Island. The turn then moves to John. John untaps and draws. He plays a Talon Gates of Madara, triggering to phase out Rograkh. He then activates Diamond Lion to sacrifice his hand for 3 blue, and filters using Talon Gates to cast his commander, Narset, Enlightened Master. It resolves, and John passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He plays Gemstone Caverns as land for turn. He casts his commander, Kambal, Profiteering Mayor. After a quick read from the table, he passes the turn. Ryan untaps and draws. He casts Trouble in Pairs. He then passes the turn. John untaps and draws. He goes to combat and swings Narset at Tyler. Narset triggers to exile Amanatu's Augury, Gamble, Teferi Time Raveler, and Mox Opal. Everyone does a big gulp as Tyler takes his damage. In his second main phase, John casts Teferi Time Raveler. The table all huddled together, trying to figure out how best to not lose to this. Tyler steps in with an Offer You Can't Refuse, countering Teferi and giving John 2 tap treasures. Kambal triggers to make 2 tap treasures. Kambal then triggers again to drain everyone for 1. John casts Amanatu's Augury. Trouble in Pairs triggers to draw. He exiles Lightning Greaves, Brain Freeze, Tezzeret Cruel Captain, Arcane Signet, Expropriate, Chrome Mox, Starting Town, and Steam Vents. He plays Steam Vents as his land for turn, into play on tap, paying 2 life. He casts Tezzeret Cruel Captain as his Planeswalker from the pile. He casts Expropriate as his sorcery from the pile. Everyone votes for time to give John 4 extra turns, hoping Trouble in Pairs will continue to prevent this extra turn nonsense. John then casts Lightning Greaves as his artifact from the pile. Tezzeret triggers to get a counter. He casts Mox Opal from his Narset pile. Tezzeret triggers to get a counter. He casts Brain Freeze with Storm Count 7, with all copies targeting himself. He mills 24, including Seize the Day and Waves of Regression. John flashes back Seize the Day, targeting Narset. Narset untaps, and John goes to his second combat. He swings Narset at Tyler. Narset triggers to exile Voice of Victory, Command Tower, Simian Spirit Guide, and Temporal Manipulation. With a much worse hit than last time, the table regain a shred of hope. Tyler then takes the damage. In his third main phase, John casts Temporal Mastery to get a 5th extra turn after this. He activates Tezzeret's 0 loyalty ability to untap Mox Opal. He casts Touch the Spirit Realm. It enters and triggers to exile Trouble in Pairs. John then goes to pass his turn. In his end step, Tyler casts Chain of Vapor, targeting Touch the Spirit Realm. John cries out at the injustice, as no one wants him to have piles of extra turns. Trouble in Pairs re-enters. John decides not to copy the chain. John goes to take his first extra turn, and it's skipped. He goes to take extra turns 2 through 5, and they're all skipped due to Trouble in Pairs. With the most impactful enchantment in the world putting in work, the turn then moves to Tyler. Tyler untaps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He casts Delny, Streetwise Lookout. He goes to combat and swings Kambal at Tezzeret. Dan then passes the turn. Ryan untaps and draws. He plays a Plains as land for turn. He casts a tapped Felwar Stone. He then casts Boromir, Warden of the Tower. John's heart sinks a little more, and Ryan passes the turn. John untaps and draws. He plays Arena of Glory as land for turn. He activates the -3 ability of Tezzeret to add Mana Vault to hand. He goes to combat swinging Narset at Tyler. Narset triggers to exile Mycosynth Gardens, Fierce Guardianship, Flooded Strand, and Polluted Delta. John slams his head into his deck at the Betrayal. He casts Mana Vault. It enters tapped, and Tezzeret triggers to get a counter. John then has to pass the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. He goes to combat and swings Silas Wren at Tezzeret. Tezzeret takes the damage and dies. Tyler then passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He plays Silent Clearing as land for turn. He casts a May, Scornful Striker. He extorts it through Blind Obedience. Dan then goes to combat and swings Kambal at Tyler. He takes the damage, and Dan passes the turn. Ryan untaps and draws. He plays a Plains as land for turn. He casts his commander, Yomiji, who bars the way. He goes to combat and swings Boromir at Tyler. He takes the damage and complains once again about the threat across the table from him as Ryan passes the turn. John untaps and draws. Mana Vault deals 1 to him. He goes to combat and swings Narset at Tyler. Narset triggers to exile Rise of the Eldrazi, Enlightened Tutor, Savine's Reclamation, and High Noon. Tyler takes the damage. In his second main phase, John casts Rise of the Eldrazi, targeting Boromir and himself. May triggers twice, and Boromir triggers. Rise can be countered, and John takes 4. In response, Ryan sacrifices Boromir to give his creatures indestructible. Yomiji triggers to return it to hand. Rise then resolves, and John draws 4 and gains an extra turn after this one. He then casts Savine's Reclamation, targeting Teferi, Time Raveler, in his grave. May triggers twice, and Trouble in Pairs triggers. Ryan draws, and John takes 4. In response, Tyler casts Force of Will, targeting Savine's. May triggers twice, tipping him for 4. Savine's is then countered. John flashes back Savine's from grave, targeting Teferi again. May triggers twice, tipping him for 4. In response, Ryan casts Orm's Chant, targeting John. May triggers twice, tipping him for 4. Chant resolves, locking John out this turn. Teferi then returns to the battlefield, and Savine's Reclamation copies itself, returning Tezzeret, Cruel Captain, to the battlefield. John then activates the -3 ability of Teferi to bounce Trouble in Pairs back to Ryan's hand and draw a card. He activates Tezzeret's 0 Loyalty ability to untap Mana Vault. He then plays Urza's Saga as land for turn, getting his first counter. He then moves to his end step. In the end step, John channels Touch the Spirit Realm, targeting May. May is exiled, and John passes the turn to himself. John untaps and draws. In his first main phase, Urza's Saga gets another counter. He goes to combat swinging Narset at Tyler. Narset triggers to exile Mindbreak Trap, Lotus Petal, Karn the Great Creator, and Need for Speed. Tyler takes the damage. In his second main phase, he casts Karn the Great Creator. He casts Lotus Petal and enters tapped. He casts Need for Speed. John retraces Waves of Aggression from his grave. Narset untaps, and John moves to his second combat, swinging 3 at Tyler. Narset triggers to exile City of Brass, Damping Sphere, Rite of Flame, and Cyclonic Rift. Tyler then takes the damage. In his third main phase, he floats 3 with Mana Vault and activates the 0 Loyalty ability of Tezzeret to untap it, using that mana to cast 1 with the Multiverse. The table asks what bracket this is, and give this card a read as it resolves. He casts Cyclonic Rift on Blind Obedience, returning it to Dan's hand. He then casts off the top of his library Temporal Manipulation for free through 1 with the Multiverse. He casts Felwar Stone. Tezzeret triggers to get a counter. John goes to pass his turn, and May returns to the battlefield in the end step. John untaps and draws. Mana Vault deals 1 to him. He casts Time Stretch for free thanks to 1 with the Multiverse. May triggers twice to pick him for 4. John gains 2 more extra turns as the table's groans intensify. He goes to combat and swings Narset at Tyler. Narset triggers to exile Misty Rainforest, Underworld Breach, Flusterstorm, and Nexus of Fate. Tyler blocks with Rograkh. At this point, the table noticed John's Urza Saga should have triggered to get its third counter. They put the trigger on the stack now, and John searches up a Lion's Eye Diamond to the battlefield. In his second main phase, John activates the 0 Loyalty ability of Tezzeret to untap Mana Vault. He casts Underworld Breach. May triggers twice, tipping him for 4. He sacrifices Lion's Eye Diamond for 3 blue, discarding his hand. He then escapes Cyclonic Rift from his grave, targeting May. May triggers twice, tipping him for 4, and the table starts salivating at the thought of his demise. May is bounced to hand. John escapes Cyclonic Rift again to bounce Kambal to hand. He escapes Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. He then casts Brain Freeze, milling out the rest of his library. He activates the +1 Loyalty ability of Jace, targeting himself to mill and draw. With no library remaining, and thanks to Jace, John wins the game. So, what did we learn today? If you're the fastest deck in the format and you plan to give away a Wish Claw, maybe don't give it to the next fastest deck right behind you. If you get stopped, you won't get another chance. Also, you've never felt pain quite like the pain of losing 5 turns in a row. If you have any tips for the video, leave them below. Subscribe if you feel like it. Until next time, keep making value plays. No, you don't.
No.
Okay.
This is my 1 draw for turn.
Yeah.
Because if it is a bounce spell, then we are boned.
Yeah.
That would be tough.
Did it resolve?
Yeah.
Okay. So you skip your extra turn.
No. If an opponent would begin an extra turn, I
would begin!
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm going to begin 5
No,
extra
you're
turns
fine,
here
you're fine,
in a second.
Yeah.
That's why I did the thing
No,
first.
fine.
I would have cast this first thing in the turn if that mattered. Thoughts on touch? I'd like to go to my first extra turn of 5.
In your insight.
Sure.
You terrified of me or John?
Yes.
If I show you my hand, will that help?
No, because any draw, like,
I get that.
I get it. I'm the most threatening. As soon as I fizzle, you're the next most threatening again.
Yeah, that's...
Boromir?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god, yeah, that's sick.
I'm gonna swing.
I could have let John win. I'm just throwing that out.
Okay. Let me have some turns, ref.
Yeah.
Let John win.
I'm going to sack it.
Okay.
Trigger Yomiji. Put it in my hand.
Okay. Cool. Oh, that's so fun. It goes back to hand.
Yeah,
All right.
that fizzles.
That has 2 targets. Target
Oh,
player draws 4.
It's target player! I thought it
Yeah.
was just the
No, I will.
controller.
I draw 4, and then I take an extra turn after this one. Oh, that is my secondest spell.
Trigger times 2. There you go.
That's gotta stop. We're gonna have a talk about that.
You do take 4, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I gotcha. That's what I mean by dance.
I
Setting
can't
up the
help
world, but not helping
I can't-
in
it's
any
not a
meaningful
me.
way.
It's
I
not
should
a
just
me.
let John win.
I'm good for force to counter this.
You take 4.
I'll kill you! Dan, I am going to
Hey,
kill
say that
you.
for a second turn. I don't know.
You do take 4, I'm sorry.
You're not sorry.
Yeah.
Dude, pretty annoying.
Relevant.
You know, there's a
See that?
theme.
It's relevant.
I'm noticing a through line in Dan's decks here.
I'm not only helping, but I'm also killing everyone.
We've gone from Rograkh Thar to Orzhov Rograkh Thar.
Yeah, right. Heck, Dan.
I'm gonna go to my part of my turn where I play a land. Which is a thing I have not yet done this turn. It's everyone's favorite phase of the game. John's phase.
I just would like everyone to look at Dan's graveyard, and my graveyard,
Yep,
and
it's,
Tyler's graveyard. And, yeah.
we're all the
This
same.
is counter magic for John.
Genuinely,
We're all the same.
I'm gonna bounce my good
You
friend.
got a breach in a freaking LED. Do your thing,
I
brother.
am so afraid of losing 1 life.
What did we learn here today? Stacks sucks. How many pieces of stacks?
I'm gonna escape.
I have to go fast. Wow.
What a cool time. And everyone was all having so much fun at the same rate.
Dude, Dan,
It's
play
so cool when
Turbo
everyone
Blow
has
you
fun.
out. I'm gonna wait till you're like down and out, and I'm just gonna beat you with a club, brother.